All right, team. Sorry about any confusion there. After this lecture, there'll be a couple of videos to watch. I went back and looked at the order I had things in. So we're going to talk now about organizational communication. So this is some of those communication principles we just talked about applied specifically to organizations. So there can be formal small group networks or means of communication, how information travels within organizations. So some organizations use chain networks. That's following kind of a strict hierarchical structure where one person tells another, that person's responsible for telling these two people, that person's responsible for communicating to these three people, and then it moves its way down the organizational chart from there. That's a chain network where it rigidly follows that formal chain of command. There can also be wheel networks where you have one hub, one central figure, one leader that communicates with either individuals, if it's a small organization, or with different departments. So maybe one person communicates with 4 different departments, and those departments then disseminate the information amongst themselves. And then there can also be the all-channel network. This is what you'll see more in self-managed work teams where everybody is communicating with everyone else. There's no hierarchical structure where the work is simply getting done and moving from one person to the other as the need arises. So within these formal small group networks, there's pros and cons. And so each one of these is going to have some different criteria for the effectiveness of their communication. So within chain networks, the speed is moderate. It moves through at a pretty good pace. The accuracy is very high. This is interesting because it follows the formal chain of command versus what we'll talk about later, the grapevine, where that message can get very distorted. But because of that formal chain of command, the accuracy tends to be high. There can be a moderate emergence of a leader. With that hierarchical structure, usually that leader's already in place, but it can also identify future leaders to really develop and invest in. And there can be moderate member satisfaction where folks have folks most of the time over them, under them, that they get to communicate to, and that can result in some moderate member satisfaction. The wheel small group network has a very fast speed. Things move faster than the chain of command because that one person is just batting it off with everybody. This person, and they get into a groove, and there's no downtime between letting folks know. The accuracy is extremely high as it's all coming from one source. So that exponentially increases the accuracy. There is a high emergence of a leader. If that person's not already in place, whoever acts as the hub really is taking on a lot of leadership responsibilities. But there's extremely low member satisfaction because the only interpersonal interactions you're having in terms of communication are with that one leader, not with the rest of the group as a whole. Within the all channel, the speed is very fast because folks are just communicating with others as the need arises. The accuracy is only moderate because things can get wires can get crossed, messages can get crossed, and there can be some slippage on accuracy. There's no emergence of a leader really in all channel communication because everyone's equal. It's not the wheel function where there's a hub that everything's kind of revolving around. But the member satisfaction is extremely high. Amongst all those equals, there's high member satisfaction. That gets us to what I alluded to earlier with the grapevine. Now, the grapevine is not controlled by management. It's perceived amongst the members, the people that are listening to the grapevine as being more believable and reliable, particularly if there's a lack of a climate of trust in the organization where, okay, this is what they say, but I want to know what's really going on, so I'm going to listen to the rumor mill or the grapevine. It's largely can be used to serve self-interest, where folks can kind of lay out hints and tidbits that paint them in a really positive light, maybe paint others in a negative light. So it can be largely used to serve self-interest. And the rumors that emerge in the grapevine usually are a response to situations that feel very important to us, but where there's ambiguity, there's conditions that arouse anxiety. So within the grapevine itself, it's neither inherently good or inherently bad. There can be some positives there. Unfortunately, it does tend to thrive even more in instability and fear. And so that's where the grapevine will be kind of the strongest, and that's when it tends to be in more of the unhealthy category. But when there is a great stability in an organization, good communication overall, a lack of fear, where things are shared pretty openly, then the grapevine can be used to share some of that informal communication where there's thought of a Christmas party and management wants to see kind of how folks are feeling about it. So they kind of tell some influential people, let it trickle through the organization, let it trickle through the grapevine, see how people are responding. If there's good response, okay, maybe we move forward with a Christmas party. If there's pushback because everybody's too busy, okay, we don't need to do that this year. So there is potential good that can come from the grapevine and potential bad. As a manager, you want to be kind of in tune with the status of the organization that you're in, whether this is something that's really thriving, and work to cut down on that instability, that fear, and let it be a tool versus a rumor mill where people are getting riled up over potentially nothing. There are also computer-aided communication methods. So some of those can be email, instant messaging, intranet, and extranet, links, and video conferencing. We're going to get into these more and more as we shift into the virtual setting in weeks 6 and 7. But for our purposes here, recognize that in today's world, the computer-aided communication is simply growing. Video conferencing is probably 10 times further along today than it was even 4 years ago. Instant messaging is further along today. I was able to just today, I had a couple emails from a colleague that I wasn't quite sure on, so I simply did a quick video call with her to get some clarification on some things, and was able then to answer a question and move everything forward. That capability is tremendous. Now, within computer-aided communication, recognize there are some downsides. Right? Video conferencing isn't the same as face-to-face. Email isn't the same as a conversation. Instant messaging isn't the same as holding a meeting over coffee. Those things, there can be some personable interactions where computer simulated interactions fall a little bit short. But it does increase our efficiency, it increases our speed, it increases our output. So when used well and not completely replacing some of those face-to-face interpersonal interactions, it can be very strong for organizations to implement those things. Then lastly, there's this aspect of knowledge management. Knowledge management is a process of organizing and distributing an organization's collective wisdom so the right information gets to the right people at the right time. Over years, there are folks that stay at an organization for a long time. One of my coworkers who shares a wall with me, she's in the office right next door. She has been here at Union for 41 years. She is a wealth of knowledge. If Union does knowledge management well, then when she retires, then hopefully that knowledge will have been passed on and stored and cataloged. That way we don't lose everything that individual brought to the department and to the university as a whole. So that is extremely important, particularly as the ability to store this knowledge grows, the ability to catalog and organize it has grown. There is an opportunity to not lose the wealth of wisdom and knowledge that longstanding employees gain and bring to an organization. So remember that intellectual assets are now as important as physical or financial assets. One person with all that they bring to the table could be replaced. If they had to be replaced, maybe it takes 5 people to do everything that they're doing because they're so knowledgeable and know all the ins and outs and the shortcuts and everything to do that job extremely well. So that intellectual asset can cost a ton of money to replace. There can be an increasing awareness that retiring workers represent a wealth of knowledge that will be lost if there are no attempts to capture it. So knowledge management is an attempt to capture that wealth of knowledge. And a well-designed knowledge management system will reduce redundancy and make the organization more efficient. When you have multiple people doing the same thing, trying to make up for one retired individual, that is inefficient and costly in time, costly in resources. So being forward thinking on the knowledge management side is tremendous. It also, as a manager, gives you an opportunity to really invest into some of your longest standing employees, folks that have been with an organization for a long time, and value them and actually grow your reputation as an organization of how you care for folks that have been with you for a long time. So that concludes our lectures for this week. We're going to go ahead and watch a couple of videos now regarding communication, and then we will begin working on our paper. So there's a short video before your paper, just kind of laying out some expectations, and try to make things a little bit shorter for you this week. That way you had plenty of time to dive in, get your paper knocked out, 3 pages, and I'll look forward to reading those next week. Thanks, y'all. Bye.